Richard Southern.
Free. It's been too long again. They never put us together anymore.
I know, they're trying to separate the bad kids from the class from hanging out together at the 5:30 hour.
We talk
How
too
are
much.
you?
We cause too much trouble. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like so much has happened since I've seen you. I had a really exciting day today, if I could just quickly
share. What did you do? What did you do?
I talked to Mrs. Talbot.
There's a Mrs. Talbot?
It's not a wife, don't worry.
Okay.
I talked to Talbot's mom on the phone. His phone was ringing and he was charging it at my desk, so I picked it up and it was Mrs. Talbot. And it was she watches all the time, so I just wanted to say Mrs. Talbot.
She's probably deeply worried about what she's seeing. That's probably why she's calling him. We're always making fun of poor Talbot.
I made sure to let her know how much we love Talbot, so
yes,
that's wonderful. Listen, tell me, stocks are surging today, and that's all because investors don't think that Irma was as bad as they initially thought.
Yeah, I mean, try telling that to the millions without power in Florida. But still, the analysts came out and they said, you know, it could have been worse in Florida over the weekend. The storm weakened maybe a bit faster than they were expecting. And so, yeah, we had the S&P 500 closing at a record high. The Dow was up more than 250 points. Still, Irma is expected to be one of the 5 costliest storms ever. Wow. Estimates say it could, Avery, cost $65 billion. Some others say could be maybe towards $300 billion when it's all said and done. We saw the travel stocks come back to life today. The cruise operators, Carnival, Royal Caribbean up more than 3%. American Airlines stock up more than 4%. Also helping matters, geopolitical tensions. They eased. North Korea, as you know, marked their founding day on Saturday, but didn't test any new missiles or bombs. You know, Avery, you got to feel for the people in the Caribbean. They kind of got the storm worse than any other. I was in St. Martin just 8 weeks ago, and I got some pictures today of the resort I was staying at. It's in pieces, and 95% of the structures on the island of St. Martin destroyed. And we know WestJet today was evacuating more Canadians from that island. Pretty devastating. And
stay with us throughout this show, as well as this evening as well. We'll be catching some of the people as they come back from Saint Martin, as well as Turks and Caicos. Listen, roller coaster, the Toronto housing market is just that. It goes up, it goes down. Now they're talking about that it's sort of bottomed out and prices could surge again. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens this fall. Of course, the market down some 20% since April. That's when the province of Ontario put in measures to cool the housing market, like a tax on foreign buyers. The thinking, though, is that the market might be following what we saw in Vancouver. BC put in a similar tax on foreign buyers more than a year ago. It initially cooled the market there, but now Vancouver housing sales surging again. I talked to Robert Kapsik, economist of the Bank of Montreal, and he says the Toronto housing market could indeed be ready to surge again.
Well, it looks like it. If you look at the results from August, we saw some better sales momentum. We saw less downside for prices. And if you look at the overall market balance in the city, it actually improved quite a bit in August versus the prior 2 months. So that kind of was setting up a bottom forming, just like we saw in Vancouver. But at the end of the day, I mean, economic, labor market fundamentals are still such that they will eventually put a floor under home prices.
The story of the surging Toronto housing market isn't over yet, is it?
No, we might see another leg up, just depending what the Bank of Canada does.
Right, so that's the caveat he puts in place, Avery. Depends what the Bank of Canada does. It's hiked interest rates in the last 2 or 3 months. TD Bank says we could see another hike next month, so that could really determine what happens with the housing sector. All right, so I've been completely ignoring any news about this new Apple iPhone that's coming out because I just got the Apple 7 Plus. I don't want to know what I'm missing in the new one, so it's all going to be released tomorrow. But I guess a lot of people do know what the new things are. Well, you know, they wanted the big surprise reveal tomorrow, but BBC reports, Avery, that a disgruntled Apple employee leaked a lot of information about the new phone. So we have a list of sort of what it's going to feature. They're going to be called, there's 3 versions. There's going to be called the iPhone 8, iPhone 8 Plus, and the 10th anniversary edition is going to be called the iPhone X. Oh, Lord, okay. And that top model is not going to have a home button. There's going to be some gestures on the phone you use to wake it up. There'll be a tap-to-wake feature, some facial expression detection that you can use to pay for stuff on Apple Pay, edgeless display, so a bigger screen, and the top model will shoot 4K video at 60 frames per second. Wow. Again, the big reveal tomorrow, Avery, and Apple stock close to a record high ahead of that. Those video cameras and the cameras on the 7 Plus are so stunning. I can't imagine what it's going to be like when they get to 4K. Not that anyone could broadcast in 4K anyway. By the way, the top model expected to cost $1,000 US. Would you pay $1,000 for a phone? I think a lot of people might, though. You know, they will, because it's not just a phone. It's a camera. It's a computer. It's a computer. It is a computer, but it's still a lot of money. This actually makes my knees and my back sore even to talk about. Philippines Air is going to be operating the longest flight out of Pearson. Where is it to? It's Toronto to Manila, non-stop, Avery, in the Philippines. And that flight will last 16 and a half hours on the Toronto-Manila route. I'm sure you've done some long-haul flights before, maybe not 16 and a half hours,
I'm trying to think of my longest. I have done a long hauls, but 16 hours, and that's, economy, that's going to hurt.
That's going to hurt. Other long-haul flights out of Pearson currently, Toronto-Taipei on EVA Air, and Air Canada to Bombay, 14 and a half hours. By the way, prices on this Manila route, about $1,000 return to start, which is pretty good, $4,000 in business return, Avery.
All right, so listen, we know that some people don't like to work with others.
Not us, though. We get along just great.
We get along so great. But I mean, there are professions where, well, I guess there are professions for people who don't really like to work with other people. You've kind of got to run down.
More solitary professions, right? So the Occupational Information Network looking at this, and they found that sort of topping the list of jobs for people who don't maybe like other people so much, foundry, mold, and core makers. Never heard of this before.
Anyone who deals with mold, I can see why, yes.
Exactly. They make the molds for metal castings and foundries. Watch repairers. It's just you and the watches, right?
Yeah.
Agricultural equipment operators, so those that drive farm equipment, pretty solitary. Mathematicians, economists, fellers, those that chop down trees, and finally potters. They operate production machines that make ceramic pottery. More solitary type professions, Avery.
In pottery, I'm thinking of the movie Ghost, and he's behind, and it's a very sensual moment when they're potting. It's not that kind of pottery.
Not that sensual, but just more by yourself type of thing, Avery.
Richard, always a pleasure. I hope you have a great rest of this day.
You too. Thanks.